My life felt ordered and clean, just like the glass in my hand. James, my husband, was away on a last-minute business trip to Atlanta. I was wearing my comfortable satin robe, feeling the gentle hum of exhaustion and contentment. It was a good life, a quiet life, a life built on solid effort and trust. Or so I thought. Then, the cold, cheap plastic of the burner phone, hidden deep inside a decorative sugar canister, vibrated on the counter. James swore he didn't own a second phone. Its ringtone was a generic tinny chime, a sound that instantly brought the chill of concrete and shadow into my warm, safe kitchen. I reached for it instantly, my heart rate spiking. I didn't hesitate. My hand was steady because, deep down, I knew this was coming. The screen showed an unfamiliar number. I answered without speaking. A frantic, ragged whisper cut through the line. It was Keisha, our young babysitter, supposed to be asleep in the guest room after putting the children, Marcus and Lily, to bed. Sarah? Oh God, Sarah, I saw something. I shouldn't have looked. I shouldn't have been in the study. I saw something, and I'm scared. I don't know what to do. Her voice cracked, wet with genuine terror, not drama. My blood turned to ice, but my mind snapped into clinical focus. This was the moment I had been preparing for, the moment the quiet doubts in the back of my brain were finally validated. The immediate instinctual thought wasn't about James or betrayal, it was about the children. Marcus, 9, and Lily, 7, were asleep upstairs. Their safety was my only focus. Keisha, I said, my voice low and impossibly steady, sounding like a calm pool over a violent current. Take a breath. Are the doors locked? Are the children safe? Don't move from the guest room. Don't go near the study. I want you to sit by the door and listen. You are not to make a sound, no matter what you hear. Do you understand? Your job right now is only to watch the kids. Yes, but she started, her voice breaking again. Keep watching the kids, I repeated, the command absolute. I'm coming home. I'll be there in 20 minutes. I hung up, placing the burner phone back into the canister, and then I stood there, motionless, the sound of my own harsh breathing the loudest thing in the room. My mind raced through the past 3 months of quiet, unvoiced suspicion. James's late nights weren't just meetings. The huge, unexplained cash deposit last month wasn't an investment. The fear in Keisha's voice wasn't about seeing him kiss another woman. That fear was about danger. I didn't reach for my purse or my keys. I walked straight past the front door, through the living room and toward the master bedroom. I went directly to the wall safe hidden behind the large framed picture of our family vacation. I punched in the code. Not James's birthday, but my own mother's birth date, the one I used for all my secure passwords. It opened with a heavy, satisfying thunk. I didn't stop to think about the morality of what I was doing. I was a mother protecting her children from a rapidly approaching storm. I was a strategist executing a defense plan. I took the one thing I knew I needed. The small, black ledger that James guarded like his life. It was filled with numbers and names I couldn't understand, but I knew it held the key to his professional life and his professional secrets. I also took the prepaid emergency bank card I had secretly loaded with 6 figures over the last year, tucked away for this exact moment. Then I looked at the picture frame, our happy family, smiling in the sunlight. I looked at the safe, now empty except for a few old insurance papers. And I knew the life I had polished moments ago was a beautiful, devastating lie. I didn't panic because I had already built my own fortress. I hadn't just suspected James was cheating. I suspected he was lying about something much, much worse than another woman. Something that involved the shadowy, dangerous money that had built our beautiful home. And I was right. But the biggest surprise wasn't James's betrayal. It was Keisha's real connection to James, and the horrifying reason she was in our house that night. Her cry of fear wasn't just about what she saw, but about what she knew about James's history. I knew that by telling Keisha to stay put, I was not just protecting my children, I was enacting a plan to finally expose the true scale of James's secret life. A life that included far more than just bad decisions. It involved literal danger coming for our family. I walked out of the apartment, the ledger cold and heavy beneath my coat. I drove the 20 minutes back to our house in the suburbs, my mind racing, building the final sequence of my escape. I was not coming home to confront my husband. I was coming home to rescue my children and activate my exit strategy. I parked my car 2 blocks away and walked the rest of the distance, moving silently through the shadows. I didn't want the sound of the engine to announce my arrival. My training took over. Not self-defense, but the kind of careful observation you develop when you know your environment is compromised. I slipped the key into the back door, turning it slowly. The house was utterly silent, too silent for 2 sleeping children. I went straight to the study. The door was ajar, a small slice of light visible beneath it. I moved on silent feet, easing the door open. The room smelled faintly of James's cologne and stale paper. Keisha wasn't there. She had disobeyed my one order: stay put. I saw what she saw. It wasn't a woman's earring or a crumpled love note. On James's large antique mahogany desk was a mess of papers. They weren't quarterly reports. They were copies of passports, driver's licenses, and, most horrifyingly, a hand-drawn map of the city's industrial district, heavily marked with dates and times. And right next to the map was a large, gray, battered briefcase, the kind you see in old movies. It was half open. Inside the briefcase, neatly stacked in plastic wrap, were thick bricks of cash. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. The kind of money that doesn't come from a legitimate 9-to-5 job. My heart sank not from despair, but from the brutal confirmation. James wasn't just a businessman. He was involved in something illicit, dangerous, and probably criminal. I stood there, looking at the dirty money and the map, realizing the truth. Our life, the beautiful home, the private school, the vacations. It was all funded by this shadow world. Then, a sudden, soft noise came from the hallway upstairs. A light creak. I froze, instantly flat against the wall, listening. It was Keisha. She was moving upstairs, near the children's rooms. Why wasn't she in the guest room? I moved swiftly but silently out of the study, leaving the door exactly as I found it. I was going to the children. As I reached the top of the stairs, I saw Keisha. She was standing outside Marcus's door holding a small duffel bag. But she wasn't looking at the door. She was looking at the end of the hallway, at the wall where James kept a safe hidden behind a family portrait. The same safe I had just accessed in the city apartment. Keisha's face was still streaked with tears, but her eyes, wide and panicked, held a flicker of something else: calculation. I stepped out of the shadow. Keisha jumped, letting out a sharp, choked gasp. "Keisha," I whispered, cold as stone. "You disobeyed me. Why were you in the study?" She clutched the duffel bag tighter, backing away. I just heard James's voice on the phone. He was talking to someone named Leo. I just wanted to make sure everything was fine. I saw the money, and I... But her eyes gave her away. She was looking at her right hand. "Show me your hand, Keisha." She hesitated for a fatal second. I moved closer. Not threatening, but completely firm. She reluctantly opened her hand. It wasn't empty. She was gripping James's burner phone, but she wasn't using it to call me. The screen was still on, locked, but the last active app was visible: the phone's camera roll. The roll was full of pictures taken in the last 5 minutes. Pictures of the briefcase filled with cash, pictures of the map, pictures of the documents on the desk. Keisha hadn't called me to confess. She had called me as an alibi. She wanted me to hear her panic, so when the time came, I wouldn't suspect her of being a spy. She was meticulously gathering evidence, but not for me. The shock was a physical blow. She wasn't an innocent student. She was a professional, a spy or an investigator, perfectly placed in my home. But for whom? I didn't yell. I didn't question her motives. I simply extended my hand and demanded the phone. "Give me the phone, Keisha, now." She was trapped. She handed it over, her face a pale canvas of defeat. I wiped the camera roll clean, deleting every picture, every piece of evidence she had gathered. Then I threw the phone onto the carpet. "Go to the guest room," I commanded, my voice flat. "Sit by the door. If you move from that spot, I will assume you are a threat to my children. Do you understand?" She nodded numbly and scurried down the hallway. I didn't waste time on her. I didn't care about her motives right then. I had the ledger, the escape money, and now I knew James's secrets were not just known to me, but known to a potential enemy who was actively gathering evidence. I didn't pack anything else. My focus was purely on securing our exit and destroying James's ability to track us. I went to the router in the living room and disconnected it, wrapping the cord tightly around the box. No more internet access. I grabbed James's laptop from the desk and smashed it with the back of a hammer I kept in the utility drawer. No digital evidence. I took his main cell phone from the charger and dunked it into a glass of water. No tracking. I was systematically erasing our digital footprint, ensuring that when James finally realized I was gone, he would have no easy way to trace my route or the children's location. As I was finishing up, a shadow appeared in the doorway. It was Keisha. She was standing there, no longer panicked, but defeated. "Sarah, I have to tell you," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I wasn't taking pictures for me. I was taking them for my father." The air went tight. "What are you talking about, Keisha?" Keisha didn't look like a babysitter anymore. She looked like an avenger. "My real name is Karen," she said, her voice hard. "Keisha is what your agency knows me as. My father was David Johnson. He used to be James's partner in that investment firm. James stole everything from him, left him with all the debt, destroyed his credit, and forced him out. My father lost his business, his savings, and his reputation 5 years ago because of James. He tried to fight it, but James covered all the tracks. My father got sick from the stress. He died 6 months ago. I felt the blood drain from my face. This wasn't just my husband's mistake. It was a devastating pattern of destruction. The quiet life I lived was built on the wreckage of other people's lives. I took this job because I knew you and James were leaving town this weekend," Karen whispered, tears returning. But these were tears of rage, not fear. "I was supposed to find the ledger, the one that proves James laundered the money through David Johnson's company. The one he calls his black book. I needed the evidence to clear my father's name and legacy." She paused, looking at me with frantic urgency. "James is not just a fraud, Sarah. He's running something much bigger. The money you saw? That's not a business transaction. That's a ransom payment for a deal that went bad. He was supposed to pay Leo this weekend in Atlanta, but he's not in Atlanta. He was supposed to make the drop here, at the office, before flying out tomorrow morning. The map in the study is the drop location for the exchange tonight." My brain processed this information in a split second. Kidnapping, ransom, a level of danger that was far beyond mere divorce and debt. My husband was a criminal, and his enemies knew where he lived. "Where is James right now?" I demanded. Karen pointed to the basement. "He came home an hour ago. He's downstairs on a secure line, talking to Leo, negotiating the drop time. He's scared. He knows he's trapped." I nodded, the chaos finally making cold, terrible sense. My plan had just accelerated from a quiet exit to an immediate high-stakes extraction. Karen, I said, looking her straight in the eyes, you want justice for your father. I want safety for my children. We are temporarily allies. You stay here. Go back to the guest room. Do not, under any circumstance, leave that room or make a sound. Wait for the police. Do not move from the room. I didn't wait for her reply. I moved to the children's rooms. I slipped into Marcus's room first. I gently shook him awake. Marcus, listen to me. This is not a drill. We are playing a game of total silence. You are a spy. We have to leave the house now. You cannot make a sound, understand? Marcus, though groggy, instantly saw the serious, intense look on my face and nodded, his eyes wide with fear and excitement. He was a smart boy. He understood the gravity of the mission. I helped him pull on the pre-packed escape bag I had quietly prepared months ago, a small backpack containing his favorite blanket, a comfort toy, and a change of clothes. The kind of preparation you make when you know your husband's business partners are dangerous. I did the same for Lily. I didn't explain. I just whispered, "Spy mission, baby." Quiet as mice. I led them downstairs on silent feet, moving through the kitchen, not touching the light switches. Lily stumbled once, making a small, scared whimper. Marcus instantly grabbed her hand and gave her the serious, determined look I had given him. He was already protecting his sister. As we slipped out the back door, I paused. I reached into my coat and pulled out the small black ledger. The key to James's downfall. I didn't take the ledger with me. That would be too dangerous, tying me and my children to James's crimes. Instead, I had Karen's father in mind, the justice he never received. I walked to the mailbox at the end of the driveway. I opened it. I placed the ledger inside a pre-addressed, stamped, and sealed envelope I had already prepared, addressed to my lawyer, Rita, with a note. Deliver this to the district attorney, marked urgent, if you don't hear from me by Monday. But I didn't stop there. I walked to the briefcase full of cash sitting on the study desk. I opened it and took out a single, neatly wrapped brick of money, about $20,000, the amount I knew Karen's father had lost in his initial down payment on the failed partnership. I walked back upstairs to the guest room where Karen was waiting. I slipped the cash under the door. I didn't need revenge against James. I needed to ensure he faced justice from those he wronged, and I needed to ensure my children had a mother who was free and safe. I slid the envelope into the mailbox. The police would find the briefcase, the map, the broken digital trail, and the basement phone call. The district attorney would find the ledger, and Karen would find her small, silent recompense. I got into my parked car 2 blocks away, strapped the children in the back seat, and started the engine. I was not leaving a man. I was escaping a criminal enterprise. Part 5. The strong emotional punch. Freedom. Location. The highway heading south, away from the city. The sun was just beginning to rise over the skyline. Action. I was driving fast, watching the familiar skyline shrink in the rearview mirror, holding the burner phone in my cup holder. We drove for 6 straight hours, heading for a tiny, remote town where my grandmother had a small, forgotten cabin. I didn't stop until we were over 300 miles away, the urban sprawl replaced by quiet fields and rolling hills. I called my lawyer, Rita, from a payphone at a lonely gas station, giving her the coded instruction to check the mailbox and execute the urgent delivery plan immediately. Later that afternoon, the news broke on my phone's old cracked screen. Prominent city financier James K. under investigation for fraud and possible organized crime link. His picture was plastered everywhere. The police had raided the house after receiving an anonymous tip, which I knew Karen had placed after finding the cash and deciding her moment was now. I felt no remorse, only the profound, calming exhaustion of a war well fought. I looked back at my children. They were safe. They were asleep in the back seat, finally resting, unaware of the criminal world they had just escaped. I had done more than save them from James's crimes. I had saved them from the lie. I had saved them from the fear that comes with constantly looking over your shoulder. I realized that the hardest part of the betrayal wasn't the loss of love. It was the crushing weight of the lie, the realization that the man I trusted had built our security on foundations of sand and other people's ruin. My freedom wasn't granted to me. It was earned through meticulous planning, quiet strength, and the willingness to face the absolute worst-case scenario. I had faced the truth and refused to become another one of James's victims. I pulled over to watch the sunset paint the distant hills. I looked at the two sleeping faces in my rearview mirror. I had my children, my hidden savings, the knowledge of the truth, and my clean conscience. I had walked away from the beautiful lie of the city and the dangerous man who had constructed it. My life, now simple, honest, and entirely mine, was the ultimate, undeniable victory. The babysitter's cry of fear had just been the trigger, but my preparation had been the true weapon. I was free, and my children were safe. That was all that mattered.